I am Mia Harper, 31 years old, and I live in Portland, Oregon, where rain is a constant companion, and the streets are lined with coffee shops that smell of fresh beans and old dreams. I work as a graphic designer for a small advertising firm, and in my spare time, I love to paint watercolor scenes of the Willamette River at sunset, something that makes me feel calm after a long day of deadlines. I have always been the kind of person who tries to keep the peace, who believes that a kind word can fix a broken heart, and that honesty is the only road worth walking. My life seemed ordinary until the summer of 1997, when I was only 18 and my boyfriend Jacob, who was also 18, was just starting his first job at a local hardware store. Jacob had a best friend named Stinky, a nickname that stuck because of his habit of never showering after a night at the skate park, and he also happened to be my roommate at the time. I had moved in with him and his friend because my parents were moving across the country, and I needed a place to stay while I finished my last year of high school. The three of us lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment on a quiet street, and I thought I could manage the awkwardness of sharing a space with a man who was supposed to be my boyfriend and a friend who seemed to enjoy teasing me more than helping me. One night in July, my best friend from high school called and begged me to go to a bar with her, promising that it would be a fun night out and that Jacob would understand because he had to work early the next morning. I asked Jacob if he wanted to come, and he said he had to be at the store at 6 in the morning, but he encouraged me to go have fun and said he would wait for me at home. I lived only a few blocks away, so I walked to the bar while Jacob stayed inside, and I promised my friend that I would be home by 2 a.m. The bar was noisy and full of teenagers celebrating the end of the school year, but I only had a couple of soft drinks because I never liked to get drunk. When the bartender announced that the place was closing, I said goodbye to my friend, hugged her tightly, and started the walk home under the streetlights. As I turned the corner onto my street, an old ex-boyfriend named Ryan appeared out of the shadows. He had been a high school sweetheart who broke my heart by cheating on me, and he liked to act as if he still cared about my safety. He told me that it was not safe for a young woman to walk alone at night and that I should wait for a ride. I told him in a calm voice that I was an adult and could take care of myself, and I kept walking. He followed me, his footsteps echoing my own, and when we reached my apartment building, I could hear the faint sound of music coming from the living room. Inside, Stinky was already awake, lounging on the couch with my 16-year-old sister Lily, who was staying with us for a few weeks because she was visiting from out of state. Lily saw Ryan at the door and ran to give him a hug, laughing as if we were all old friends reunited. We all stood in the hallway for a few minutes, exchanging awkward jokes, and then Ryan and Stinky started arguing about a video game they had both been playing the week before. Their voices grew louder, and I realized that the argument had nothing to do with me, but it was making the whole situation uncomfortable. I told Ryan politely that it was time for him to leave and that everyone else needed to go to their separate rooms, and he finally walked out, still muttering something about young people and their reckless ways. The next afternoon, Jacob came over with a furious look on his face, his hands shaking as he held a half-filled coffee cup. He told me that Stinky had spread a rumor that I had spent the night with Ryan, that I had cheated on him, and that the whole apartment was buzzing with gossip. The lie cut me deep because I had always trusted Jacob to be honest, and the thought that my own roommate could betray me made my stomach twist into knots. I asked Lily to confirm what had really happened, and she told me exactly what I had just described, that Ryan had only been there for a brief moment and that there had never been any intimacy. I felt a surge of anger rise inside me like a storm, and I marched up the stairs to Stinky's bedroom, slammed the door open, and shouted at him to get his lying ass out of my house. He tried to push me away, and in the scuffle he shoved me toward the top of the stairs. Instinct took over. I grabbed his shirt, pulled him back, and with all the strength I could muster, I shoved him hard enough that he stumbled, fell down the stairs, and crashed through the front door, landing on the porch with a painful thud. Jacob rushed outside to see what had happened, while I stayed inside, my heart pounding, my mind racing. Stinky lay on the porch, groaning, his pride more bruised than his body, and I told him in a low voice that he was no longer welcome in my home. He promised that he would leave that night and that he would come back for his things the following week, but I could see the fear in his eyes, the fear of losing the place he had called his own for months. I needed to teach him a lesson that would stick, something that would make him think twice before ever lying again. In those days, having a Sony 5-disc Carousel and a matching Sony amplifier with Paradigm speakers was the ultimate status symbol for any music lover, and the equipment cost more than my entire rent for a month. I decided to use that prized possession as a weapon. I waited until Stinky was not home, and I carefully opened the Carousel, poured a whole can of bright red Bravo tomato sauce into the disc slots, closed the lid, and then unplugged the unit and placed it by the front door, where I knew he would find it when he returned to collect his belongings. A week later, Stinky came back with a bag of his things, his eyes wide with curiosity as he spotted the Carousel. He lifted it, smelled the sour odor, and carried it inside. When he finally opened it, the sauce had seeped into the plastic, turning the discs into a mushy, moldy mess that would never play again. He stared at the ruined machine, his face a mix of confusion and disgust, and I could see the disappointment in his eyes as he realized that his beloved music was gone. Jacob saw the scene and asked me why I had done such a thing, and I told him that messing with a piece of equipment was nothing compared to the damage that a lie can cause to a person's life. He nodded, still angry at Stinky, but also grateful that I had stood up for us. Over the years, Stinky finally admitted that he had spread the rumor because he was jealous of the closeness I shared with Jacob and that he had wanted to see me hurt. He never apologized, but his confession gave me a strange sense of closure. The revenge I took that summer taught me that sometimes a small act of justice can feel like a big victory, and that the truth, even when it is hidden, will eventually surface. As time went on, I married Jacob, and we built a life together, raising 2 children while staying in the same Portland neighborhood. However, there were darker shadows that lingered. Stinky had once slept with both of my sisters, and I later learned that one of my nieces might have been his child, a secret my older sister refused to reveal. Those whispers never fully faded, but they reminded me that betrayal can take many forms. Looking back now, as I stand on my balcony watching the rain fall over the city, I realized that the night I poured sauce into a music carousel was more than a petty prank. It was a turning point that taught me to protect the people I love and to never let a liar walk free in my house. My life is still full of challenges, but I have learned that when the world tries to break you, you can always find a way to fight back, even if it means using a little tomato sauce and a lot of courage. The memory of that summer remains vivid, a reminder that revenge, when done with purpose, can be a powerful tool for reclaiming dignity and peace.